All right. Hello, everyone.
What?
Jan, did you just mess up that intro talking about your teeth?
Hold on. Let me just one second. We can still use this as the intro.
I think this is the intro. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, this is actually what I was gonna do. This is when Jan messes things up.
Is this for the Patreon, the outtakes reel, right?
Yeah, exactly. We gotta.
We actually do have some bloopers that I've cut up, but perfect. I don't actually know what's in there. We also have some canned episodes that will never see the light of day,
unless that one's going on our OnlyFans.
Oh, there you go.
Oh no.
Maybe, yes, one was a drunk episode. Anyways, welcome everyone. If you couldn't realize by that terrible introduction, we are CTF Radio. Say hi, Jan.
Hello, hackers.
Hello.
And other people.
Hello, hackers. Hello, hackers.
There we go. Now I got that soundboard.
Hello, hackers.
I just want to see if he does it the same every time. Cool. Well, we have a very, very exciting episode today, Jan. Why don't you give your best kind of ramp up introduction for these people before we have them introduce themselves?
All right, so one of the badass things on hacker movies is this concept of hacking against the clock, live, the hacker versus an opponent, whether that opponent is a human, an AI, a system, could be the Gibson, could be the guy behind the Gibson, right? This is an elusive thing from it's eluded CTF, this concept of truly heads up mano a mano hacker versus hacker action. And the guests we have with us today have made it a reality, which is super awesome to see, and I'm personally super excited about. They've made it a reality, not just in terms of existing, but existing at the World Championship of cybersecurity competition. So super excited. Let's welcome the LiveCTF team.
Yay. Okay.
Yay.
We had a soundboard. No,
I do. Yeah.
You missed the studio.
Well, now we feel it.
You gotta get a good
Alright.
soundboard, Jordan.
That's the studio audience.
That's a different one.
Yeah,
Oh, wow, the
it's-
people love it. The people just absolutely love
Oh
it.
no.
So much love. I do have a soundboard. I just pointed to Glenn. It's just
I
not
hope
plugged
it's not
into this
plugged in.
screen. It's not
Oh,
plugged
yeah.
into this computer, so
You
that's
can't
not
have
on our side.
competing
I
soundboards.
know it's too much.
My son found my little soundboard, like little mobile one, and every once in a while it'd be like, wah, and a big farting noise. Pretty good.
Great. So yeah, we have the fine folks, some of the fine folks from LiveCTF. So why don't we have everyone who's here kind of introduce yourself, and then we'll start talking about LiveCTF.
That sounds good. I'll go
Go
first, just because I talk a lot. I'm Jordan, Ciphertex, and I'm an old man of CTF. Been around for a long time. I retired many years ago, so now I just do stuff like run things and stuff like that.
And talk about things.
And talk about things, yeah. Like I actually had a when I started, like when I quit my last job, we started Vector 35 Remake Fighter Ninja. I had on my bio on the website like CTF anthropologist / like apologist. Like I like the history of CTF. I like talking about how great CTF is, and so it was always the plan to do something like we're doing live CTF, and then I just kind of got busy with life, and 7 years later I hadn't done anything with it yet. And then we finally kind of got this off the ground last year, so that's a little bit of the history. I used to play CTF. I used to run Ghost in the Shell code. Again, this is like old CTF.
I was gonna
stuff.
say, can you give people a taste for how old was it, Jordan?
Yeah, I know, right? Some of you weren't alive when I started playing CTF, which is scarily true. I think the first CTF I played in DEF CON 9. I played CTF in DEF CON 9, and then I took a break and came back like actually more seriously like DEF CON 13.
That was the first DEF CON I attended. DEF CON 9.
That was
not
my first
as a
one too,
CTFer.
I
Cool.
I got roped into the CTF. I didn't play. I didn't like go to play because that was what was kind of open. You could sort of like walk in, and strangely enough, like Chris Eagle of all people, like I was on his team, and then like we didn't ever know it until like 10 years later we were talking again. I was like, wait a minute, like wasn't that? Anyway, yeah, it was just random. So that was like Lexus Park way back in the day.
Yeah, Alexis Park was the best one, I think. It's weird to me that it's not the original, because to me it feels like the original DEF CON location.
Is that when you were sleeping in the hallways, Jan?
I had a room, but sort of other
There were a
people
lot
we
of
know
other people.
was sleeping in the hall.
They had like tents on the roof, like because it was
Yeah.
overflowing. It was a
It
crazy.
was amazing. And
Yeah.
and I remember back then, yeah, they had the gray net or the gray team or something where you just show up and plug into the CTF networks.
Yeah, it wasn't nearly like the game changed a lot, right? But back then, you literally just would show up. You'd run your own service, and like that would be part of the CTF. You just like hack other people's boxes if you could. That was this. It was weird. It wasn't nearly as fun. I think once it kind of like got its legs and became a little more organized. So qualifiers and all that stuff it made a difference. So yeah, but then like and then I played actively for maybe about 10 years and then kind of retired. So the last 5 or so years, I just watched for the most part.
Yeah, so was that the last year it was hosted by the Goons?
No, I think there was. It may have been. Yeah, I've got it on my spreadsheet like online. I'll have to like if there's like notes for the podcast. I'll send you all the link. There's like a Google
Perfect.
sheet I have of like every year of DEF CON CTF of like who ran it, who organized it, who won it, what was the platform, and all that kind of stuff. That
Was this the history of DEF CON CTF?
yes,
Yes,
yeah,
I'm looking at that
Google
right
sheet.
now.
Oh, there you go. You got
So
that.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
trust
yeah,
that then.
cool.
'Cause at one
DEF CON
point-
9 was the Goons, it says. Multiple
Okay.
platforms, and the winners were ghetto hackers.
Yeah, and then that's right. Then they went on to run
Then
it.
they took over. Yeah.
That was the next year. Yeah, they took over. Yeah, so I
And
didn't
then-
go the next few years, but
Wow, that's cool.
old stuff. So anyway, pretty old. But yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was interesting from the perspective of like a kid that got into hacking through DEF CON. Like I didn't know who Cult of the Dead Cow was. Not really. I kind of
Yeah,
knew, but
yeah.
I knew who ghetto hackers were. Right.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. And everybody
Yeah.
else in the world would have thought like the exact opposite, right?
Yeah. Cool.
Cool.
Okay, thanks.
All right, cool. Hi, I'm Glenn. I go by Glenn's or Glennis. It's pretty good. I started CTF with RPI Sec. Oh, geez, that was like almost 10 years ago now. Not quite. We
Ancient.
Yeah, I know.
played in DEF CON a couple times. We didn't do fantastic.
I think we got
Qualified
10th
for
every
finals,
time.
what, twice?
Twice alone, one time with Shellfish.
Yeah, and then and every time we didn't qualify, we would just like all fly out to Arizona and go play with Shellfish. It was pretty good.
Oh no, one time we qualified with Lab Rats. Lincoln
Oh
Labs.
yeah, we did with Lab Rats. Yep.
And y'all did a lot of like seesaw.
We did
play a lot of
seesaw.
Yeah.
That's
We
seesaw
did
big
a lot of
ones.
the other like local competitions.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was pretty good. But yeah, after I graduated, I came and I worked for this old man, and he roped me into doing all this live CTF stuff when it started. So
It's like you've got some free time, right?
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
do that. Like,
Yes,
Not
free
anymore.
time. Yes,
the
boss.
mythical
Always.
free time,
Yeah.
definitely not work time.
Not allowed to have that.
totally. Yeah. Take both your work time and your hobby time and destroy
Isn't
them.
it fun when your work and your hobbies are nearly identical?
I enjoy it. Not everyone does, but yeah.
It's the kind of thing you have to balance them out, and then every 6 months you just take like a long break.
Go play a lot of
You
video
go
games.
outside.
Yeah.
That is like the
Stress.
curse of CTF, I think, that it is
Yeah.
like it
Yeah.
can really, if you want it to, it can suck up your time, and then you realize you start liking it, you do that for a job, and then all of a sudden, like, what else is there?
Yeah.
But in a
Yeah.
way, it is very
You
cool
don't
that
eat, you don't sleep, you just CTF.
you can turn the thing that you find fun into just money, which is very cool.
True. Yeah.
Doesn't happen in a lot of industries.
Oh yeah. So I'm Josh. I got my negasora on pretty much everything. My first CTF was Plaid CTF 2014. Actually, was my first time doing any CTF, so that was a wake up call. And I'm like, well, I'm really bad at this. I want to learn more. So then I
Wait, but
toured-
how'd you get involved in playing Plaid
yeah,
CTF?
yeah.
I literally just like found it. I forget.
Well, you like
Just
you
by
went
yourself.
to-
By
I
yourself?
was on a gap year. I wasn't in college
Oh
yet.
wow.
I was just on a gap year. I had my laptop with me, and I'm just like scrolling through like r/hacking or something. I don't even remember. Like, I'm just like, oh, there's like the CTF thing. It's like, oh, Jeopardy. It's like puzzles. And I'm like, I love puzzles. So I, stayed up for 16 hours trying to play it. I solved one challenge. It was a 50-point like hello welcome challenge, and I'm like, I'm terrible at this. I love it. And then I was touring colleges next year, and I went to RPI, and RPI Sec had a big poster up. So I went, I talked to a couple of people. I talked to like, Marcus, Sophia, Patrick,
Yeah.
and
The
I think
old guard
Amy.
there.
And I mentioned like, oh yeah, I do some web and like crypto stuff, and they're like, you're coming here. So I got recruited, it's history since then. So I was playing
You just
CTF
need
ever
crypto
since
people.
then. Desperately need crypto people. Numbers are just scary.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I came here. Like I think I started working here while I was still in college,
Hmm.
and I've been here ever since. And the idea of LiveCTF came up, and I'm like, we did Seesaw 2019.
Yeah, that's right.
We did a little pony racing.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
cool.
one of our folks that's not here, Carl, Zeta 2 or Cal, is was like sort of like the lineage of like like the live CTF stuff. Like he was one of the people who had the steps along the way with doing pony racing, and like we used to like collectively, me and Rusty, who's not here right now, but we helped out a little bit with some of the live CTF stuff. Rusty basically himself has done like Pwn Adventure, a bunch of challenges over the years, and we were usually heavily involved in Seesaw challenges and making stuff for that. And so, yeah, one year was like, hey, let's do that live CTF thing. And since pony racing had kind of its brand of like head-to-head live racing that was announced in sportscasted style, we just said, hey, like, Carl, do you mind if we just like use your brand and website? We'll stream like up 10 hours of content or something. And he's like, that sounds good. So we wrote a bunch of challenges and did kind of like a sort of precursor to what we did last year, live CTF. Yeah.
So did that. It was a great time.
I think was that the year before maybe you started? 'Cause I
That was
don't,
the year before.
yeah, because I
No,
know
he
you
was
were.
playing in that CTF.
I played in it.
Oh, that's right.
I watched Matt
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
up and then lose the very first challenge, and we were all like, Matt, what are you doing?
It's way different
It's
when you're
so
head versus
hard.
head, when you're
Yeah.
on like any time crunch.
Yeah.
Like anyone will know when it's down to like the last 5 hours of the CTF, you're like full on like panic mode.
Hmm.
Like, I guess we got mad at him for losing the first challenge, but in a way, wouldn't half of the teams lose the first challenge?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
in a 1v1, that's just
definition.
what happens.
Might be just below average.
This is true. Yeah, you could be almost exactly average and still
Yeah.
get knocked out. So
So real quick, Plaid CTF 2014 was, I think, the first CTF that I stayed up for 48 hours straight.
Really?
oh, that's
Yeah,
unfortunate.
the entire thing. It was insane. By the end, I was like having micro sleeps where
Ooh,
you're
yeah.
just like sitting there and then like suddenly you jerk awake and it's like
It's one where
8
you
seconds
keep
later.
convincing yourself I'm being effective, that you
Yeah,
stopped
yeah,
being
yeah,
effective
yeah.
15 hours ago and you
Yeah,
should have just
exactly.
left.
It was absolutely insane. And then I drove home, which was a terrible
Oh,
idea.
no.
But it worked out fine.
You didn't die.
Yeah.
Just real slowly.
God,
Yeah,
crazy.
it
So
was
yeah, Carl was actually
insane.
we did an episode with him about pony racing and other CTF stuff for CTF Radio. So yeah, wasn't able to come today, but yeah. So that's okay. So then that's great. So then there's a like a streaming lineage. So can you walk us through the history of like live CTF and or I think like stream like this kind of notion of streaming a heads up hacking competition.
Yeah, like I think it's interesting because there's there is like a lot of like Twitch culture nowadays where it's people just streaming competitive things or doing things is pretty common. But like 10, 15 years ago, it was not quite as like it's just normal, I think. And so the
Mhm.
idea of like taking CTF stuff and just streaming it was maybe a little bit less common than it might seem now. It started like I'm trying to remember like maybe that some of the very first ones. Like there have been always people who tried to like. Remember, like I went to RSA of all things one time, and there was somebody who was doing like a head-to-head commentary. This is actually how I got my last, not like several jobs ago, like 18 years ago or so. And they were like, you would walk up and you would just do a little challenge, and they had a screen over your head that people could see what you were doing. And based on your times, you got to like come back for another round where you like head-to-head with somebody else. And they had a guy with a microphone. Like RSA is one of the, it's not a very technical conference. I don't recommend it for like most actual hackers, but this is a pretty fun thing. They had some good web challenges, and the company that was running it, ironically, had like another company. This is where I ended up getting a job for, so it worked out well. But that was the first time I had ever seen like, oh man, this is like, crazy. Like having like somebody see me while I do this stuff. Like I said, I played at DEF CON CTF before that, way back, and so. But those two ideas, like kind of early on, I was like, that's super cool. Like we should do some more of this. And then. I'm trying to remember the exact order of it. Like I did one year, I guess it was George. So GeoHot like was started just being geohot, like streaming what stuff he was doing. It's like when he was like dominant in the CTF scene, he would just like do a bunch of like.
I remember when he did the live hacking of like vortex challenges and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He was just blowing through it, and just you at the same time. At the one hand, you're like, oh man, what a fool! He doesn't know about this command tool, or he must this thing. And then on the other hand, he just blows through stuff. It's really fun, like to see like both how smart and how like much people still have to learn, and how much you can learn from them. Like I don't know, like that was, and he's just of course super entertaining and like really engaging. So he made it like a lot of fun to watch him. And so there was some really early rounds, like even so Gamozo, who a lot of people may have seen now, he does some fantastic like live coding and live streaming stuff with the security / developer stuff on Twitch. He did a really early head-to-head against George and got like flattened. He was very cocky. He was like super like confident, and then like just got demolished. And that was like a really long time ago. So like there was like people trying to do some of these kind of like head-to-head stuff. I recorded. There's a couple like on our Vector 35 YouTube channel where we did a couple kind of prototypes and testing even.
I think that was at DEF CON, right?
Well, so like what happened was we did some like literally at our office. Like we did some just to try to like build up like a community of people that were interested in doing this and seeing if people would like it. And we tried to like do trial runs because like how many players can you show at the same time? Can you do 2 or 4? Because like with pony racing there would be like 4 players all the time. It's really hard to track 4 different players at the same time.
And when you say that, do you mean for the viewers or for you
both,
as like the caster?
For both, yeah. It's just I think it's even with like 2 casters where one of you is kind of like talking, the other one can maybe be like as you kind of do that. Even with that, 4 people was kind of unmanageable, which was one of the things that we found like in practice. So we did. Goodness, this was one of the DEF CONs. I have to go back and look at it. It was one of the legit BS's second year. We did a LiveCTF at DEF CON.
Yeah, I remember that. That was pretty interesting. We there was a qualifying round that was
right.
Super
it was
tight,
like a place. So there was a placement round. So what we did is like we kind of done these experiments and we decided okay we can do 4 people, but only if we actually had this really overly complicated setup where all 4 video feeds went direct to one laptop where one of like our friends was monitoring it. They were like the full time like like in like football, there's like the guys feeding stats to their ear. They're like, oh, he was actually a high school whatever. Like they didn't come up with that. Somebody's like feeding them that info, right? And so we had like spotters. We had like 4 people on dedicated like monitors with like an IRC connection like over to me and J, who were like the 2 casters on the camera. And so we could have 4 people. Like we kind of like tested. We thought we could, and even that was crazy hard. Even with the spotters, trying to keep track and watching who's close and who's not. But yeah, so there was like that qualification round. Like you did 1 challenge, and we just took like we told people like because I don't remember if it was 8 or 12 teams that year, whatever it was. Like the top 4 made it to this other challenge, and so you got points just for getting in that, and then you got some other points depending on how you play. First one, kind of in that round. Then I screwed up the audio levels, so.
Oh no!
It is to my great shame that like one of the mics was like not. Yeah, so I'm like to this day paranoid now about checking my levels. Because and like it was also really kind of crazy and stressful too because just getting everyone's laptop, getting the capture cards. Like not every laptop had HDMI out at that point, and getting like the logistics of capturing was more of a headache. So it's kind of started late. There was a lot of like logistic issues with it. The challenge was fine. Challenge worked well, and I think like. It was maybe a little bit harder than we hoped it would be. And that's also where we learned like how hard it is to hack like on camera.
Oh yeah.
Like I think that's like one of the big lessons learned. It's like anything like you watch a game show.
Adds 200 points.
200 points. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it does. It really does. You could take the easiest intro tutorial challenge and you put a camera on somebody, put them in the middle of the room, knowing there's somebody else head to head where they get no points or they're eliminated, and like it's rough. So I like a lot of the players think, go ahead.
I failed to solve challenges I wrote for my class on camera.
Because
of that
and that's as a teacher, not
right.
even as not against anybody else.
You're not losing anything if you. It's.
It's like, what the fuck is going on?
What idiot wrote this? It should be easier.
Yeah. So like I really like watching people like do well in the face of that because I know having sat there how hard it is. And then like last year we had some just truly fantastic.
Yeah, there were some really good competitors.
So yeah, that was so yeah. So for context, like we put together kind of this live CTF team. It was us here, the three of us, and Carl were like the main four, I would say. We had a couple other people who helped
A
with
couple guest authors.
some other stuff, but and this year we've got a few more people that are a little bit more involved. But yeah, like that's
And we also had Rusty writing challenges.
yeah. Rusty
Yeah.
wrote several
Behind the
challenges. Yeah,
Good sudden death challenges too.
Yes.
several tiebreaker challenges. Yeah, because
Which we
like
sadly need to use.
because last year when we did it like at DEF CON, we have a very tight timetable because we have to like
Yeah, you want to talk about the like what the structure was for? So
What is it?
you kind of let's say
So-
revived the live CTF brand for DEF CON. Was it 30?
30?
I think
Yeah,
it's
30
30
finals.
This year's 31. It was 30
Yeah.
finals.
30
last year.
finals is
Yeah.
the first one. Yeah, so we had 16 teams, which just lent itself really easily to a single elimination bracket. The thing we didn't realize at the time is that meant 15 challenges because it's 15 matchups, and it turns out writing 15 easy but not too easy, but definitely not too hard.
Oh, also, but different.
Oh.
and
but
interesting.
different and
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, and you can't repeat the same challenge like
Right.
idea for the same team.
So it turns out writing 15 diverse challenges like that is a lot of work. And I mean, I will
Yeah,
say
it's like
there
a
was,
whole CTF in itself, right? Like
Yeah.
a Jeopardy style CTF could,
Yeah.
you know, have that many
Easily.
challenges.
Yeah, but you can't have any unsolved challenges. But
no, like literally they all have to be solved.
Right.
yeah,
And that's where we had like the
There was a good time solving the challenges behind the scenes while the competitors were actively doing a different challenge
to make sure it was solvable.
to make sure that it was
Yeah.
solvable so that the next people who came up could solve it.
Yeah, we didn't want to
Yeah.
field anything that didn't have a working solve script or that somebody had solved, and we had at least some hope that it was doable in the time frame.
We'll go with
Amazing. So
not-
what was the time frame like? So you had
we had a lot.
well,
It was well
I mean,
time frame
at the
for like
event.
each
yeah,
challenge.
for the
or,
yeah. So like the
Oh,
structure
yeah.
of the teams playing and stuff.
Right.
at the event, each team matchup was a 1 hour event. I think we did, was it 6, 8, 5
in terms of per
in
day.
terms of per day?
We
We
it
did a
was way
lot
too
the
many.
second day.
What were we talking about? Sorry.
So we were talking about
Similar
8,
to
6, 8, or how the
Oh,
total.
yeah.
Yeah, you were talking about like the total rounds.
I'm pretty sure we did 8 the one day. We did like 6 the other days. It was an entire day full of casting and then making sure the challenges worked. And then the one challenge that accidentally ran too long. But it's okay.
Yeah.
We had scheduled a lunch break. So we just
didn't.
used the lunch
Eat
break to keep
lunch.
casting and
Yeah.
then got real hungry.
I think that was my Sudoku challenge, right?
Oh no.
Was that different?
I don't remember which.
Because
one
I
it was.
remember.
I think that was the pack challenge.
Oh no, it was the pack challenge. That one ran real long. So yeah, so we had like
Ah.
the idea was that because we had these time slots, if we went too long, we had a tiebreaker. We were supposed to just like, sorry, that was too hard. Now it's
Yeah.
time for first person to connect.
like
get
a
shit.
sudden
Like
death gets.
It's
kind
just
of
literally
it wasn't-
upload your shell code. Here you go.
they were
Yeah.
they were very very straightforward challenges meant to
Mhm.
be like 5 or 10 minutes. Just like, sorry, we gave you something a little more interesting, but it was too hard. Either our fault or you guys were not
Or
good
hack
enough.
harder.
Turns out-
Yeah.
After
Didn't
they
hack
both-
harder.
After
Yeah.
45 minutes of staring at ARM assembly, even
Yeah.
the easy like
We
sudden
had,
death challenge was slightly too hard.
we had at least one where the sudden death was too hard because like. Again,
Oh, no.
you're on camera and you're brain
Yeah.
fried, and by the time you're so exhausted, and now you got to do a different
And you're
challenge.
still thinking of the other challenge.
I
too.
know.
You're like, why
Like,
couldn't I
I could have
solve that?
finished the other one. And so,
Yeah.
so we did have, we had one where even the easy one wasn't done in time.
The goal is
But the idea is at 1 hour. So it's supposed to be, and so
Mhm.
like if you're playing, it's supposed to be anywhere from like, if you solve in 10 minutes, great. If you solve in 45 minutes, great. If it takes longer than that, we sort of like did it wrong. We want to break in between rounds to reset and like kind of do all that. But it was like we had a couple that ran a little bit long, but overall
Yeah.
we kept to the schedule. And
It was just the three of y'all.
It was three
because
people.
I
That
couldn't
was
be
rough.
there. I was remote, and I'd get texts every now and then like, "Hey, hint for your challenge, maybe." I'm watching the broadcast, and I'm like, "Oh god, they haven't solved it. It's been 55 minutes."
It was great. Just sitting behind the computer watching Jordan and Carl trying to commentate what's going on as the two competitors are desperately searching to try to find the bug. It's like, Josh, what's your bug? Oh,
man.
God.
Yeah.
Our
What
lunch
can
hour.
we tell them?
Yeah, so would you hint, or did, I guess actually like a more of a programmatic thing. So the casters it was Jordan and Carl. Were you also all on like texting each other on microphone? Like, could you tell them?
Oh, yeah, we had machines open. We had laptops up
Yeah,
on the
we had
street.
like
We
text
had
chats
chat.
that we were like able
Okay.
to talk
Yeah.
on. So like if I was talking, Carl could be like, "Guys, we need a hint," or like, I mean, something that we could just talk about out loud too. Like we'd be like, "I don't know, should we give him a hint now?" Or,
Yep.
we could, because it's
And then the hints were just written down on paper.
we would walk over to
Yeah.
them, like
The
drop,
Slow-
lowest
them hints.
technology solution.
yeah. Yeah, so
Most
features
reliable.
features for 2.0.
I was gonna say it worked, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard to
Better
break.
than mini DisplayPort.
Although I will say, after the majority of the hints, the competitors just looked at it with like a really confused face, like, how is this supposed to help me?
Yeah, we know. I don't know if we
classic,
asked them
yeah.
like, did
Yeah, we're like,
did you
okay,
guys
Does
know
this
have you
help?
tried looking at this function
Please
call?
leave a
And
review.
they just the expression of, yes, I tried looking at that function call. Come on, really?
not helpful.
Mhm.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
generally worked well though, and I think like one of the best matches was like the first one because
The first match-
we
first
had
match
this
was amazing.
incredibly close match. I mean, literally,
It was like 10 seconds.
It
max.
was-
but like, well, no, it
Seconds
was
apart.
less than that. It was about 1.5 or like to like 3 seconds apart because we were watching one screen, like, oh, they're about to solve it, and all of a sudden, like the U1 thing triggered, and we're like, wait,
Yeah.
what? And the other person had solved it while we were watching the other like finish the last few lines. It was
It was actually
incredibly close.
a very like
Did that make you question your infrastructure? That if it was working correctly, of alerting on who
Well, no,
won?
for like half a second, absolutely. It was
Like,
like,
oh,
wait, are we live
Yeah.
at our display? And then, but we had seen like some of the people in the audience were behind the one display and like
Ah,
cheering and
okay.
stuff too. So we're like, okay,
Yeah.
no, somebody really got
I
it.
think
This is
usually
the one we were
you
watching.
look in the camera feed and one team just like throws their arms in the
Yeah.
air. They're like, "Yeah, we did it!" Like, okay, they probably won.
Yeah. So don't tell them how to fake us out next year.
Oh,
I was
yeah,
gonna
no.
say, yeah,
Oh,
you
God,
can really,
no.
but you know, when it comes out in the end,
Social
who actually won?
engineering. It was the real challenge all along.
We had the VOD. We can always go back to the video replay, and if it's a photo finish, like but we do have the infrastructure like that, like we'll automatically like overlay the winning team based on like who hit, literally
so-
who ran it first. So like if
Like
it's
to set the stage,
Yeah.
but basically the teams would attack the challenge. Once they get a shell, they can find a binary like on the server. They run that, it sends a command to our infrastructure which says, "Okay, you've won the challenge."
so
And then
yeah.
it got a little bit dicey in the later challenges when we forgot to update the keys, so it also prints the date. And then you can review
Yeah.
the logs and be like,
Yeah.
okay, the date was correct.
we added that feature. We're like, let's make sure that like we can go back to the recording and we can see exactly the timestamp. So if it came down to it, yeah.
This is great.
Yeah.
This is all the kind of, I think, you basically organize like we said, a mini CTF, right? And these are the
Yeah.
kind of things that you want when you're designing this.
Yeah.
It just has the added component of the streaming and the live nature on top of it.
Yeah.
I think with the knowledge of just organizing CTFs in the past, and then like the experience of doing, like at least for us, pony racing at Seesaw, and Carl doing pony racing, all of it. We've learned some lessons, some do's and do nots that have definitely been incorporated. Some more being learned every time we run it, for
Yeah,
sure.
of course.
So
More on the
what's the
challenge
most-
side, more on the let's say the
Both.
It's
the
definitely
streaming
both.
Game
side, like
theory,
audiovisual.
streaming,
Mhm.
challenge,
Oh,
all of it.
infrastructure.
There was
So
a fun
much.
grind last year of people had written a bunch of challenges that were way too hard, and then going through like, how do you make it easier but not like trivial?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did we were.
You find all the bugs where you're like using the wrong function and you add an error message with an obviously wrong like function name in it.
Yeah. Hello user %x uninitialized.
Yeah, classic.
Yeah, we had to like tone down several of the challenges, especially the guest challenges, and we didn't even get kind of all of them because like we kept telling people like, look, it doesn't matter how easy you think it is. Like when somebody else is doing it on the clock, like they're better than hackers than all of us. Like every one of the people I think in the top 10 are better at pwners
They
than
were
the people who
impressive.
wrote the challenges. Right? It's no question.
Yeah.
But just being on camera and all that pressure of it, like we knew, like we have to solve it like with some semi knowledge of it in like 30 minutes or so or an hour or so because like they're gonna be better than us, there's no question. But then they're also handicapped by like the pressure in the situation. So yeah, that we really have to like kind of crank it down. Maybe teams will start to get better at it. Like I think people
I assume
practice.
some of the teams have been practicing.
I want to see if people have tooling. I'm really
I do
curious.
wanna see the
No.
I don't know. Like
I'm afraid of that tooling.
I have mixed opinions, right? Like if
I
people
mean-
just like roll in with like auto-pwn scripts to try to like
Oh,
some of
I
them are easier
really
stuff.
hope that teams have prepared like advanced suites, but I'm also expecting them to like.
Fail.
There's no way we're gonna show off all the cool tech on stream.
We say you're allowed to bring one computer, they bring like a rack.
They've got their offline
I'm
llama
not
model.
sure if that sort of tool secrecy really. I think people would love to show off
I
their
think they
tools
would.
on
Oh
screen.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, because I mean, it's with Shellfish, we always built all of these. We built anger to play CTF.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's nothing better than showing all that off because in reality, at game time, it almost always just fails and crashes and burns. So if you can get some fame out of it, that's awesome.
Well, that's why I'm curious if any brings truly does try to do any kind of autopone stuff or a fuzz. I think we had one last year who might have
There
spun
were
up
a
a
couple people who
fuzzer
ran
Yeah.
while they
fuzzers.
did
There
one
were
off.
fuzzers,
And
yeah.
They would just start them up in the background and then tab out
Yeah.
to item.
which is not a
Honestly,
bad
smart.
idea. Like
Yeah.
Like all of our challenges are really easy to write harnesses for.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think we didn't intentionally punish them or incentivize it either way.
Yeah,
It's just sort
no,
of like
if it works,
it works. It wasn't. Yeah.
And there was the fact that was the first time, right? So I think
Yeah.
there was more of maybe we'll see more prep next time.
Yes, I'm very curious. I hope we don't get too much prep. You get Superman defenses and
I
the
mean,
regular attack defense. I hope we don't get too much of that, but a little bit's fun.
If
I don't
somebody
know. We'll
solved
see.
one of the challenges in 30 seconds, it would be very impressive.
It's more of a break for us.
Yes, that's true. It's time to get coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Well, then you have stuff to talk about. I mean, at least a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, we
yeah.
could probably talk about the answers more and how the challenge works because a lot of the time, especially when they're back to back, it's solve it and we're done and we move. We could actually, if things ended really early, we can actually now talk about more in depth in hindsight, which we did get to do for quals. So
That was really nice.
why don't you describe how quals work? Because that was different than what we did for
Quals was a way different.
So this was
structure.
2023 quals, right?
Yeah, this spring.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This year. Yep.
So finals I wasn't actually able to be at, but it sounded really hectic. Quals, we started writing challenges way far out. We had all this infrastructure written. Carl did just so much
Carl
work
did a
on
ton
it.
of work. He really
He
did a
wrote
huge
the
amount of credit.
infrastructure for
Yeah,
it.
It was 20,000 lines.
Yeah. So you'd submit basically a solution script in a Docker file, would build it, run it against our local copy, and
talk about the overall because we can't do the same thing you do at a finals at a quals, right? So we were trying to figure out how do we adapt LiveCTF to a game with 1,000 teams. Or
Oh,
right?
gosh.
That was the challenge there.
how did we do that?
Yeah, so
I blacked out this entire thing.
Yeah.
instead of being a head-to-head, it was more of a race competition. So the first team to
Right.
score would win the maximum number of points, and then every minute after that, the number of points you would win would go down.
It started the clock,
God.
right? So if the challenge was really
Mhm.
easy, that's fine. The clock just starts earlier. If it was really hard, it just started later. Whoever is the first solve, max points, and then your points are just how far were you from max, basically.
We had so many game theory discussions about which way is right, which one is
Do you
fair.
want
how
the
much
point to be
points?
0, or do you
Yeah,
want
just
it to always be greater
Yeah,
than
because you
0?
solved a challenge, you don't get 0 points for solving
Do
a
you
challenge.
want to disincentivize them from even trying?
So we had infrastructure where teams would submit their solution scripts.
Yep.
But that's the thing is they didn't submit a solution, right? They didn't just give a flag,
No, so they don't give the flag, they give the scripts.
right?
So we give them kind of a base Docker image to build off of that has pwn tools and some other stuff installed. We build it on an internet connected box so they can, grab whatever dependencies they want. Then we run it on our kind of disconnected intranet that's running the challenge. And what would happen is they'd run the solution against it, would search their output for the flag, And if they printed the flag, cool, we mark it as solved. We give them the points, start the timer ticking down if they're the first team to solve it.
Yep.
And, alert everyone hey, time's running out. This is kind of close. And we had these blocks where the challenges would diminish in points to 25 at the end or
I
something?
think 15 may have been the minimum.
15.
If somebody solved it instantly, and then the last team solved
Yeah.
it right before time was up,
It
you
would
still get 15
feel
points.
15 points.
Yeah.
And we did a handful of these challenges, but then the challenge would close at 15 points, then would have a little period of time to kind of recap and talk about it, and would be able to scroll through the solution scripts because they were submitted to our infrastructure. So that was really what we designed it, why we designed it like this, is because we were curious how people were solving things, and if there were unintended solutions that a lot of teams found.
Yes.
And different, tools people use, different coding styles. One team solved all their stuff in PHP.
That was fantastic.
That was
Yeah.
terrifying.
I remember hearing about that. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
I
And
don't
so
know
yeah,
if
this
they were
makes sense,
trolling
right?
us or
Because you
not. Yeah, that's
No, I think
because you can't see the screens, right?
Right,
So
yeah,
this is
yeah.
a different way of trying to get insight, because that is, I guess, the challenge, right? The whole idea is to kind of try to open the box of what hackers are actually doing and observe them kind of in the wild.
Yeah.
That's really the goal, is to see how people approach this, not only in a race setting when there's pressure on it, it's a different kind of challenge, and you have so many different ideas going through your head, but we want to see kind of the direction that people take. And I think that's a really interesting thing from LiveCTF that you don't see in normal Jeopardy style, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because you get a lot of these scripts that, work once, but it's 18 different people hacking on this giant script with blocks doing different things.
you don't see the scripts from the teams apart from your own team. They just
Beautiful.
kind of like
Yeah.
send them and they're done. And it's a black box.
Maybe a couple
you get a
of
write
write-ups,
up later on,
Yeah.
but
Even in the write-up, you just get the final script.
Yeah.
You don't get to see what they tried and failed
there's
to
no
do.
process.
Yeah.
Like
So it's really interesting to see. And with Quals, we can't monitor 10,000
Yeah.
people. So
the best we can do is look at the output scripts, which,
Yeah.
to their credit, they were very different.
They were super varied, yeah.
We
We also had a whole bunch of the scripts that didn't work, and those were fun to read too. The number of people who tried to probe the infrastructure
Yeah.
from their scripts.
Oh yeah.
That was very funny.
Yeah, as far as we know, it worked. We didn't have any game breaks of like how the system worked, which was
There were no
nice.
vulnerabilities.
Right, well, so we
No.
had breaks in terms of like we had
No, we had no breaks.
we had issues, but we didn't get popped as far as we know.
In
Yeah.
terms of actual execution, though, Quals had a couple one major hiccup,
Yeah.
which was
Yeah.
that one of the challenges just didn't work as written. And this was during the period where Carl went to bed. Him being the man who wrote all the infrastructure was, bus number of 1, not the greatest idea.
Yeah.
But luckily,
Well, especially because I don't think we said it, but this was a 24 hours, right,
Right,
of
right.
competition,
And
right?
that was
So
that was
it
again
6?
intentional for like the game theory, right, of it, because like it's going to be unfair no matter how you do it to try to pick a period of time, and so
Yeah.
people are like, this is so annoying. We have a 24-hour period. We either have to like sleep schedule our team or stay awake all night. And I was like, yeah, so do we though, and our team is smaller than yours, so trust me, we feel your pain. It's just
but also it wouldn't be fair to schedule it for like the
Just
12
hours.
hours
Oh,
Eastern
yeah.
time people are awake.
yeah.
Right. So yeah, so you kind of were forced in some sense to run it for 24 hours,
Yes.
right? And you had one challenge every 4 hours.
4 hours,
so
yeah,
it's-
6 challenges over 4 hours each.
Which
basically.
also makes sense if you also think about the people are actually also playing another CTF simultaneously,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
Of DEF CON Quals. So yeah, there's also that aspect of, and you even talked about that, I think, about, bringing people like, even in finals, right? You're essentially taking them away from their team
Right.
to play in this CTF.
Yeah, and we've
Although-
gotten some complaints from teams because of that.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Because some of the teams are like, "This is so annoying. How do we work this into our schedule?" And you want to like, do we send our best person and pull them off the thing that they're doing over there, and but like, or do we not? Like, there's a lot of tough
Yeah.
decisions it makes them do. But I think it's worth it, just because the benefit of having that introspection, having the visibility, making it more engaging, and people can walk in the room and see what's going on and like know like way more than they ever have. But
Also, credits to Nautilus for balancing the points properly.
Yeah.
They made it such that it wouldn't have decided the game, but it was certainly not something the teams could ignore.
Yeah, I think that's always an interesting balance. We did a bit of a racing thing during qualifiers in
2019.
2019, yeah. And it's also one of these 24-hour sort of things. We had I don't remember how many challenges. Adam
12.
basically almost pulled an all-nighter. Yeah, because it was every 2 hours. It was
Actually, the hilarious thing is that the one challenge that was screwed up was when the challenge we released was different than what was in the infrastructure.
Yeah.
Was when I was
Yeah,
sleeping.
yeah.
It was
Yeah.
the one
Yeah.
time. I was
Always
sleeping.
when you're sleeping.
Yeah.
It has to be.
It's
exactly.
Murphy's Law.
The only good thing was it was a format string vulnerability, and they leaked out the binary itself in order to then opone it.
Very
so I did
nice.
not get woken up.
it was
They
still
just told me
solvable,
like,
it's just harder.
yeah, like
Yeah.
we just
not
didn't
the
know.
way.
We were like, what are these noobs?
Yeah.
Can't do a
Can't
format.
fill in a format string? What's wrong with it?
It's like an hour and a half later. Oh, finally. But the interesting thing, the way we did it is only the first, I don't remember, 3 or
I think
5
it was only
teams got.
first. Yeah, it was like
Oh.
first either 3 or first 10 or
Yeah.
something. Like we dropped off the points
Yeah,
real steep.
yeah.
Yeah, and like team 4 got nothing, and from talking to Shellfish, for example, they said, toward about the second half, we were like, fuck this,
It's not worth it.
we're just gonna focus on
Yeah.
this seed because it's not where. What are the chances we'll get top 3?
Yeah.
It's really hard to
And
balance
then-
that, yeah.
For your live CTF quals, or the live CTF portion of quals
Yeah.
this year, Adam and I were playing with Shellfish, and the
Yeah, what you guys think?
captain of Shellfish, it was awesome. But halfway through, the captain of Shellfish said, "Fuck this, we're not doing it
Yeah.
anymore."
Yeah.
And it's what shocked me, because when I read the scoring, it's like, all right, well, these guys fixed our issue. But at
But
least
apparently
on
not,
the
yeah.
one team, the result was the same, which was disheartening. And I mean, it Shellfish qualified, so I can't really
Yeah.
fault the decision.
Yeah,
Of course,
they've
there's
been the right game theory.
good decision from a game theoretical perspective, probably, but it was a bit of a bummer from like a
Yeah, to their
personal
credit,
perspective,
about
you know.
halfway through is when stuff started melting down a little bit.
Maybe it was a good time to get out. in terms
Yeah.
of
Nah.
challenges that went a little
That I
sideways.
don't know, yeah.
But
You
I mean,
missed the
But
part.
the first cup was great. But you know what was interesting is after that, toward the second half of a complicated, difficult CTF, you always have like, players burning out,
Yeah.
players that are like, let's say newbies, that aren't quite as adept at just jumping in somewhere where they're needed and like need something like assigned to them, or if you don't assign something to them, well, they'll just leave and they might never come
Yeah.
back for another CTF. For that perspective, LiveCTF was awesome.
Something
Like,
like,
hey,
to do.
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
one is working. Like,
Yeah.
go and take a look, and they didn't. They got like 15 points, but they got points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other ironic thing that I was thinking about is, we watched, I think during finals, we obviously watched when Kylebot was our Shellfish player. When
I heard
when
you were all
Kyle
rooting
was
for
on.
sudden death.
Yeah, so we watched him in the suite, but didn't watch anything else because we're also doing
Yeah,
CTF.
yeah.
And the same thing with Quals. It's like I was playing Quals the whole time. I think I chimed into like the very first the challenge 1 recap. I like watched it for 10 minutes. I'm like, okay, I should get back to my challenge. And so it's like I've been catching up on some of them now to prep for this, and it's just funny because like the hardcore CTF people are like are
They're too
doing it
busy
at the
doing
time.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's a great. I don't know. Did you guys find that people like that you got like what were the viewers like? Let's say that you from either the comments that you've gotten. What were the viewership like?
We actually had like a very large number of people live watching the stream. We had people engaging in comments. It's a little awkward because I'm like the commentator for Hackasat too. Speaking of like live CTF stuff, we've been doing some of the stuff like Hackasat too, and even Cyber Grand Challenge also wanted to, right? So that's the other threads of like this tapestry of like of live CTF, and those are both kind of like part of it. But Hackasat doesn't have nearly the views that live CTF did, which is
wow.
the government sponsored, paid for, like
really
Right.
polished.
super, and they had amazing visuals and graphic. Like there's a team building graphics and stuff for Hackasat. They're just fantastic to work with. They're super good.
And Live CTF just has
And Live
Fiverr.
CTF had
Yeah.
like and we got on Fiverr and us, but look, we had we had a bunch more like live viewers than people watching the videos later. I was actually surprised. I didn't think we were gonna get. I think
We
it's
had that. We had Live Overflow restream us for
Yeah.
a decent portion.
Yeah, at one point he had more people watching his restream of our stream as he was providing commentary and stuff, like walking his dog and
Honestly, I think I'm fine with that.
yeah, it was great.
Our most popular podcast episode
Yeah,
was when we had
live
live
overflow.
overflow.
I mean, he
on.
has
Yeah, he has
a more
I didn't
massive
think about that.
following, but yeah.
beforehand. Yeah,
Yeah, the big
It's just
names.
very fun.
I mean, it's a lot of the same thing where you're talking about with early DEF CON. Like, it started feeling less fun after it got, more structured and rigid. And we're like way less structured than some of these other things. And it almost lends a sense of like approachability to it, where it's like, oh, these are just guys who like doing this.
I think the other
I'd like
thing
to wish we were structured.
well,
a
a little better.
It's a lot less stressful being
It would
in
be.
when you're
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
structured team.
Yeah, we did get like I said, I think we got like a lot of people that like actively watched it, and I realized afterwards like we don't tweet at all throughout the year. We don't like our video page on YouTube is empty because you have to do the live tab, which like we don't really like draw a lot of attention to. We can do so much more like I think to draw it, but it's already got I think a fair amount of people interested and. The hope is, so we are doing it again for finals this year. I don't know if we've officially announced that anywhere.
No,
yet.
I was trying
But
to
you
stay
have
away from it because
now.
I wasn't sure.
I was gonna say you
Yeah.
definitely have. You have not.
I'm
So start prepping, team.
I'm
I mean, it sounds like you guys were already prepping for it.
I'm gonna go tweet right now, so it's not fair to the only people that watch this. We'll get
Yeah,
a tweet out.
I gotta get on Slack.
Get the word out. Start getting ready.
I
But,
mean,
like,
it was in Quals. Like you don't.
Right.
This is what
Yeah,
I
right.
learned
I mean,
from
that
a
was-
very,
yeah.
a very successful DEF CON organizer. Is
Yeah.
you should have the Quals for the finals that you're gonna have. So.
exactly. In fact, we really kind of wanted to do it like last year, and we just didn't have the time given like when we got brought
We
on
had like
to
a
do it.
month
That,
heads up.
It
that
was
first
pretty
year,
fast.
even when we were organizing our first year, that time gap from like you find out you get it to when oh shit I have to
was
host
insane.
Quals is so short.
Yeah.
It's just
Well, and like
I'm sorry.
Nautilus had it, and then reached out to us separately, and so it was
Right,
like we had like
right.
an additional lag, and so we kind of debated it. We just thought, like honestly, I think we've made a lot of choices to sort of de-risk things. Again, volume levels bit me. Like, so I'm like, just really like, what do we do to burn down risk? Are there things we can do to like, make it easier, simpler, and like, or make it just more likely to succeed? Yeah. And so like we've tried to do that. We have a little bit more complication this year maybe than last year, but I think it'll be worth it. We'll see. There is like a rules document that's going to go out to teams with like all of the details soon. So teams will know before they show up in Vegas, I think.
Yeah, the biggest thing with the new format is communication. Like, we don't want, especially at DEF CON Finals, where we all know, like, stuff is lost in translation between everyone.
Yeah.
Like, we want teams to know what's going on.
And I think we have a better idea earlier. Like last year, we didn't have the ability to even announce exactly what we were doing a week and a half beforehand, whereas I think we are more dialed in now in terms of what we're doing.
Yeah, and now we have all of our
I mean,
challenges.
this week and a half before now.
Yeah, right?
Don't watch your nose. Don't look at me. I want your
All
nose
the
to
challenges are definitely done. 100%
Good. And play tested.
And play test.
And no, we
Don't
solved
forget all the
I
extensive
solved by
play
at least
testing.
2 people.
They're not all done. But the ones that are marked done are play tested.
We already sent them to Shellfish.
We
They
don't
already saw
consider
there you go.
we don't consider something done until it's play tested.
We're going to take every single challenge and we're going to upload them all.
Yeah.
For people to play test beforehand.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, we've done that. We've done that once. It was fine.
Yeah, it worked out actually really well.
Go.
Surprising.
Surprise starts now.
Start reading off
I have a
Shopee
suggestion.
56.
There might be time to still implement it if you guys try really hard enough. Have you heard
I
of chess
think I know.
boxing?
No,
no.
your other thing, man.
You're not actually
The
the
other
first
thing
person
was-
to suggest that, believe it or not.
That's right. Well, the other thing was the dunk tanks.
Mm.
Have you heard of the dream of dunk
We
tanks?
could.
No.
Yeah, right.
Like,
you have
very
a dunk
familiar.
tank,
With a
2 dunk
laptop?
tanks.
Yeah, but who's getting dunked? The
Have you-
competitors or the casters?
No, OO people.
The competitors.
competitors.
It better be the competitors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your service is attached to
Yeah.
the control for
The
your
relay.
fucking dunk tank.
Yeah.
Wow.
You gotta dunk the other hacker before they dunk you. Laptop and all.
Yeah.
That's the
Oh,
thing.
yes.
Laptop
Do you think
and
we
all.
can get the
Yeah,
trademark?
no, that's-
hackathon?
When you get
Is
eliminated
that
from the tournament, you don't just lose.
Yeah.
It's got
It's
a
like
monetary
Photoshop,
cost.
Dog.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh god.
Pwned
Yeah,
to death.
we tried to, because we were going to, I think it was 2020, because it was during the pandemic for finals. We were trying to do, I was actually spent like 3 or 4 weeks trying to do a virtual dunk tank thing
Yeah.
and have them like build like a Unity engine and have them do head to head like in this arena. I have 0 game programming experience. And after like 3 weeks, I was like, guys, I will either do only this and it'll be crap, or I have to do something else. Like, this is too much. But I did make a virtual dunk tank that I could make the thing
pretty
go,
good.
and it could actually.
But I think that's why for us LiveCTF is really cool to see, because we've tried several times to make this happen.
Because what's the
and
goal, Jan? What's like the? I mean, I think
the
we've
goal is
talked
to
about it.
really feel that you're not sitting there in with your computer alone or with your even your teammates, but you're sitting there and you're fighting against hacking against other people. I felt this once, and that was in the CGC year, where we had so we played the CGC. We were super sleep deprived, exhausted, etc. And right afterwards, DEF CON started, right? And DEF CON used the CGC infrastructure. No, I lied. It was the year after the CGC year, because it was clemency.
But you were also sleep deprived somehow.
Also sleep deprived,
It's a
strangely
trend.
enough. So I just chronically
Oh,
sleep
what a
deprived.
good time.
So there was one of the challenges was crazy. It was I don't even remember what it was, but the point is there was a Stack Overflow that was trivially exploitable, minus the fact that it
The architecture
9-bit
was insane,
bytes
yeah.
and et cetera, et cetera. But it was not a complicated vulnerability, but patching it was difficult for various reasons. And so what we did was just grow the stack and deploy that patch. Patches were, and so this is known as a chump patch for listeners not familiar with this, where you don't actually patch the vulnerability, you just make it annoying to exploit. Everyone expects that, hey, on
offsets won't
the
change.
reference version of the service, the offsets are X, but they're Y. And we deployed it, and that year, all the patches were available to all the teams.
Consensus
And-
evaluation, as Walker called
Exactly.
it. Yeah.
So consensus evaluation was the law of the land. We deployed the patch, and this was I was so proud of myself. We stopped getting pwned, and then maybe 20 minutes later, we were getting pwned again, and by RPI sec.
Ooh.
Right.
I remember this
And
patch
I'm
really
thinking-
well.
And was it you?
I was working on it. I
Another-
think it was me, Max,
Amazing.
and one of the Jacks.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, so I remember that patch. I remember that you guys bypassing that patch. And so what did we do? Of course, we changed the offset again.
Yeah,
And for 20 minutes we were good to go. And then
it
they
was
started
so funny.
It
We
was
wrote
amazing.
a script to get the like offset
No
we
way.
needed.
That's amazing. And I
So
remember-
you were
We had throwing infrastructure, and the reason why it was 20 minutes, our throwing infrastructure was Python single threaded for every challenge. So
Just make
it's
you backed up queue.
whenever we could get around to it.
amazing. Yeah. So this was absolutely incredible. It was such a simple chump patch. I don't even know if we ever patched it the right way. Honestly, the servers might have just gotten retired. There was something insane where you couldn't just remove the overflow because there was other functionality
Yeah.
that depended on it. One of these things.
What's your fun challenge?
And,
It's cool to do that as an organizer.
Yeah, and it was like this
It felt very alive. It felt very like
Exactly.
active. Yeah.
I could feel someone on the other end just like adapting. And at the end, at the after party of the CTF, I think we ran into each other. I was chatting with Max or something, and it was like, which one of you fuckers can bypassing my patch? I'm like, yeah, your patch sucks.
Yeah,
You
you
know,
get
it
a
was
real
awesome.
patch. Yeah.
Yeah, that to me is what LiveCTF kind of gets at, right? I think LiveCTF, there's something there where in this patch versus exploit scenario, where it was really like your output was being used as by other people as input and vice versa. And we haven't achieved that yet, I think, with LiveCTF. But LiveCTF really gets to like, hey, there's another hacker right here, right?
Yeah. The fact that they're literally across from you, the fact that you know if you lose, you're out, and like it's just so like
The kind of non-verbal component of seeing them go like yes as they get to the next
Yeah.
stage.
Yeah, or like lean in a little more. You're like, oh shit.
peripheral vision.
That's amazing. And the other thing I think is also exposing what's going on to the public,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
I think that's something that, every year I play in, a CTF or whatever, I'll send my parents like the scoreboard to be like, this is us, we're shellfish, we're doing great. I'm
They're like number
they're
one
like,
up,
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really hard to like show people like what happens inside of it. I mean, even like go back to like CGC, that's like actually the first like we started our company and we worked like Rusty and I were working on CGC, and our whole goal was to like work with the game company that was building the visualizations, because like the rule of Mike Walker had a rule of like no cyber bullshit. Like you put a visualization on screen, it has to have actual data behind it. It needs to be driven based on like things that are real in the game. It can look cool and fancy as long as like it's actually so like every single thing that was there was all sorts of like brainstorming in terms of like how do you show like like multiple services, multiple attacks that succeeded versus failed. How do you show when things are down for patching and like in a cool visualization environment, but like none of it was just pew map like just random like packets. It was all like useful, interesting data that you could render. And like we even had one custom view that was like it was called like the baseball card. It just had like a picture, but it was like this procedurally generated shape where like the number of blobs was based on the number of processes that would fork, and the texture on it was based on the entropy. So the higher the entropy, the spikier it got. Like it was all these different like characteristics that we like pulled out, and then it was like fed into this like generator where it looked just kind of like random things. But the cool thing was like if they made a small patch, it didn't change much, right? Like if you made a big patch and like totally lifted and re-emitted the binary, it would get bigger, and it would actually do these things. And so I think it's really fun to like just think about how do you like let people like actually understand, even if they can't read assembly, they can understand the concept of okay, they've made a small change to the small patch, a targeted patch, or they don't know what the answer is. They just kind of did the whole thing and put boards over all the windows because they don't know which one is loose, and so like you can kind of explain that stuff. So I like that a lot about what we do with LiveCTF, because assuming we can keep up, which isn't always true because sometimes they go
Usually
so
true.
fast.
Yeah.
Usually it's true, and we at least know what the challenges are beforehand, and like hopefully we have an idea what's going on.
And there's a lot going on in their heads, right? Of like, well, did they see that bug
Right.
yet?
It was
and they're
on
just
screen,
filing it away.
but like, did they know it or not? Yeah. I do wish, and we thought about like, are there ways to make even like multi-part challenges where it's more obvious, like when you like progress further, or even like we've just like long term, talking with like Rusty. So again, like the Pwn Adventure series of like hacking games. long term, he wants to have like a full virtual world with hacking like in the game, where then again the same thing, you get full visualization of what the characters are doing, what they're doing, because they have to like walk up to a terminal and do stuff, and then they have to like all the hacking that, you know, even though it's actually based on real CPU architectures and real stuff like that, it's still all kind of instrumented in the game. So I think like that kind of stuff makes it easier to sort of like see what people are doing, but it's still hard because you don't know, especially on big challenges. I think that's the biggest thing, is that like watching somebody in an 8-hour challenge, like, you know, it's really hard to get a sense of like they're just are reading for a while and annotating everything, like they, you know,
they're just a domain expert and now they just know what to do.
Yeah, and then once they like get it in their head, now they can go and start actually solving it. But like you can't measure that progress very often.
So there is an interesting thing here with measuring progress inside a single challenge, right? Because normally being able to measure this progress would you need to design challenges very differently, different binaries, different. But and I say this because we already have 2 RPI sec people here. Red 2 Systems has their war games platform, and that does a really exactly that does.
This is the war games policy.
Was that the one from this year?
War games does a really good job of saying, hey, you're at this stage, even though you're, you know, you just overflowed the buffer, and it's like, how the hell do you know? But of course, it's all an instrument.
There's a lot of tripwires built into it. Yeah, exactly.
Something like that, I think, could be really cool. Now, where it would suffer, of course, if you go off path, and this even happens in war games, is, you know, you do something unintended, and suddenly you didn't trip the tripwires, but boom, you have the flag.
That's kind of what I'm going to talk, like when I talk about Rusty and like the kind of eventual opponent adventure world he wants to build, is exactly for that reason, right? When it's all in, like, you know, because with war games it's all in a browser, it's all there, and the other downside of that too is you lose a lot of the tooling, right? So a lot of people want their own custom tooling and stuff, and so that's where you know, for like LiveCTF, we just
use your own custom tooling in war games. You just pause it, you dump the binary,
you pull it out,
put it into Binja, and then just solve it.
So like you can, but you got Binja Cloud with war games. It's already integrated. No more cheap ads. But like so I do this the same kind of idea, right? Like put it into all this instrumented virtualized environment, but then you have to give them all the tools in that environment too. But that can give you more of that granularity. I don't think we could do that very easily for LiveCTF.
We don't really have that sort of granularity, but we do have experienced people staring intensely at the screen, watching as they get the overflows.
Yeah.
It's not as automatic.
Well, and our challenges are really small. Like again, we are really going for small challenges, and so there's not as many natural like steps. It's like I don't know. I feel like it's okay that it's not as multi-segmented because we have to keep them short just for time purposes.
Yeah. Honestly,
at that scale, it makes sense, but like getting to massive challenges, it would be very difficult.
The Wargames platform is fantastic because, you know, it's made for kind of education and like evaluation, so you can see actual progress. Because I feel like with CTF, well, I know with CTF, you know, you hit a brick wall with challenges at a certain point, and you think about dropping it, even though you know the image of the guy digging towards the diamonds, and he's like, oh man, that. Like, you can be so close to a challenge and not realize it, but I feel like that kind of gives you those breadcrumbs you need to keep on the path.
So how do you maintain fairness in the sense of like the competitors could be listening to the stream to figure out either things about the challenges or anything like that?
We never tell anyone we're hosting it before anyone else.
Yeah, we would never let anyone know.
Absolutely
not. The way we actually did this last year, and we are doing this again this year, is every competitor actually has to wear like noise canceling, or not noise canceling, just like noise isolation earmuffs, basically. In fact, I just found the alcohol wipes to pack in the box so that like they can sanitize them between rounds.
Nice.
But we do that. Somebody actually asked last year, like, hey, can I just put my AirPods in so I can listen to music? And we're like, I don't think you intend to cheat. I think you just want to listen to music, but I'm sorry, no, because like it's just for fairness, we can't kind of allow that. So that's one thing we do. I think that like the biggest thing we do is that we just tell people very clearly, like, look, if there's any outside help or whatever, if you're doing any of these things, like you're just out, it's not worth it. We want you to succeed because you're a good hacker. You're already like amongst the best people in the world in this room, like showing off your skills. Like it's not actually,
Yeah.
and it's not worth it because like you win like a few more points in the event. It's not like I don't know, like
You could
I would
find a way
hope
to
that.
cheat. You could absolutely find
I'm
a way
sure,
to cheat,
yeah.
just like with anything else. But I mean, the downsides are, like Jordan said, you get disqualified, you get labeled as like cheater,
Yeah,
and you know we're there watching your screen. Like,
it is a little bit harder because we can see your screen. If
Yeah.
you're at Cryptonomicon, where there's a
Yes.
very similar scene actually of like so. Yeah, I'm on the lookout for the single pixel filters. Just FYI, I've read the book too. People are thinking about that.
so it's like,
You know,
what do you gain?
from our experience, the cheating tends to happen pre-qualification.
Yeah.
You know, I think once you're at this upper echelon of hackers, they're really there
Exactly.
to show off and get challenged, right?
And it is
we've had-
reputation, and nobody wants to be
Exactly,
DQ'd
yeah.
for something like that. Like
Well,
that would
and
be
we-
horrible.
you know,
Especially
we've
not
had-
live.
Oh,
Yes.
I hope
We,
that-
we've
In the room with the others.
very,
Yeah.
very rarely might have had critical vulnerabilities in our infrastructure, right?
It
Hosting.
happens.
And people would just walk up and say, hey, just so you know, there's an API endpoint that is
Oh, yeah.
probably not meant to be open, but it's
Yeah.
open. And it's like, oh,
have some
thanks.
points, thank you. That
Yeah.
wasn't intended part
Yeah.
of the CTF.
I mean, look at what happened with roller skaters, right?
Well,
Like,
that was
the guy.
that was yeah. They DD did not handle that one super
No, you know.
graciously. But yes,
There might, yeah, there was, but
was also
even they could have done that super quietly and used it to like cheat up a win or whatever, cheat up
Yeah,
a
yeah.
win, get a win. But you know, they wanted to show off,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so that was I think that's that's probably, to my knowledge, the most impactful,
Yeah.
you know, super
Hack.
hack
Yep,
to happen,
yep.
yeah, to DEF CON. And
yeah, and that was
you
I
know-
mean, I was you know playing against them that year. Like I actually was
Yep.
like about to walk off if DD Tech got rid of them, only because it was like it was kind of like. Is that allowed or not? Like they threw a bug against our server, which was in scope, and it was a kernel bug. Like good for them. I don't know. Like I was like,
yeah,
if they want
It
to
was
throw it,
awesome.
if they're gonna do it, I was all in favor. But there is like, but it is like that fine line of like what is
Mhm.
acceptable, what's not, and you know, I would hope that people would ask. That's in fact, again, I was looking over the Nautilus like rules. There's a whole section, you know, that's like, look, this is what we're trying to do a game that's both fair and fun.
Please
If
don't
in doubt,
publish any Linux kernel O days.
like
just
if
a
in
week
doubt,
before the
ask
event.
us. Like you know, I've done stuff that was shady before in finals where I was like, this may or may not be allowed, and I just went and like I was like, hey, Kachoto, can I do this? And they're like, did you steal it from them? And I was like, I stole it from them. They're like, then have fun with it. So you know, like
Did you ever do something where you were thinking this may or may not be legal?
that we're gonna
That you
admit
wanna
to
say
on
in
recording.
No. Yeah.
Like
Please tell the audience.
Definitely not with Order the Overflow.
yes,
Yeah, no.
definitely not that.
No,
year.
no.
I don't, you know, like I think if you consider the fact that like CTFs are by definition authorized, then no,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's
exactly.
like,
so it's not on the machine,
Yeah.
but
and again, if
Uh,
it's unquestionable, like you ask, you're like, hey,
Yeah.
I want to do this, and sometimes you get a yes, sometimes you get a no, sometimes you get a yes, and then later on they're like, no, actually we don't, we changed our mind. Like the first Legit BS year where people were like doing these sort of like DOS style attacks, and at first they're like, oh, that's a
Mhm.
clever DOS, you can do it, and we're like, really? So then what about this? So it kind of opened the door, and then they're like, actually, never mind, none of that, sorry anyone, like turn it all off again. And so I was like, all
opens
right,
a can of worms that needs to be
right,
rolled back.
and so like that's fine,
that-
you do it, you know, as best you can.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah,
it
we-
goes back to what you're saying about transparency and either having the rules specified beforehand or having a clear communication channel after the fact when you make a ruling like that.
Yeah, you do have to be willing to like be like, hey, listen, we messed up. In the interest of
Mhm.
making the game, we just have to change from. And I think teams are generally pretty receptive to that because they understand. Like it's especially like attack defense. You guys, amongst a very small group of people in the world, understand how hard that is. It is like people like, oh, I've run a Jeopardy CTF, therefore I know how. No, like attack defense is this completely different beast, and so I think
And it's not just technical, right? There's the technical parts, but there's also the almost like we're talking about. It's almost like political or game.
yeah, game theory,
aspects of
design,
it.
and like balance, and yeah, it's very difficult.
Yeah. Or like, what do you do? We had the problem. I was just thinking of our last year when we had problems with people submitting patches that weren't really true to they weren't actually fixing the bug. It was like a Superman patch and stuff. And we had made it clear that this was against the rules and it was still happening. And we had to like talk to the teams involved. Like it's just like
Yeah.
a shitty thing.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, yeah, I never thought I'd have to like deal with this when organizing a fun, CTF capture the flag. But it's important. People care about it, and you want to make like a fair game. That's what the
Yeah.
deal is. So.
Well, and the nice thing for us is we don't have to, like, our challenges don't have to be the same difficulty, right? Because it's
Yes.
inherently fair in the sense that you and your competitor got the same binary with the same solution. In fact, we even told you the category. Like, we try to tell teams like a little bit. We want them to
You can pre-game it.
we want them to send their best person up for that challenge, right? So we try to, we don't give them like explicit, but we try to give them a little bit of like a hint
The
of
one
like,
heap challenge where we told everyone it was a heap challenge ahead of time.
yeah, right. So we tried to, although they were, yeah,
Although that was very hard to watch.
that was a little bit of a troll one too. It wasn't the heap they were expecting, but like, we try not to like intentionally troll though. Like we
I mean, except for that one
No,
challenge
no.
where you explicitly intentionally trolled.
which
Yeah.
one was
That
that?
was the end vulns.
Oh no, that one was
The
hilarious.
challenge with like 15 different vulnerabilities, but only one of them actually worked.
No, there were
Yeah.
multiple, and you could chain them. There were a couple different valid ways through it, but it was like
There
a
were
menu.
many.
It was a menu
Oof,
of like,
that's-
do you want the format string bug or do you want the command injection bug? But like the command injection bug was like 4 character like buffer, or each one was like limited in severe ways, and so that was like a different. I think that's a
It
different.
was very
kind of
funny to
troll,
watch,
but
though.
like yeah, it's just
That's pretty cool. That'd make a great Jeopardy style challenge. Even.
Right.
Just like
Yeah.
Yeah.
4 characters, if you can repeat it, is super doable.
whatever
I
the
don't
limit
think-
was, it wasn't doable. We made sure.
Yeah,
it
I
wasn't
think it would
doable.
just work.
I think
to
the
it.
solution was using the other bug to make the 4 characters longer than 4
Yeah.
characters.
Mm.
And then
just
you
go back to
right.
it.
That was one of the
That was
more
one of the
popular solutions. Like there were a
Yeah,
couple.
the 4 character, there was a HitCon. Orange had a 4 character bash shell coding.
Nice.
And that was insane. I actually repackaged it into a Pwn College bash exploitation dojo.
Ooh, I'm going to
Drink.
look at that one.
Orange challenges
Yeah,
are
you gotta-
the
you gotta
goal.
take
That was always my favorite.
Yeah.
Was that style. Yeah, so that we, but generally we don't try to troll though, right? Because again, we want your best. We want the best player from each team. We want to have. We would be if every one of our challenges is solved in 10 to 20 minutes. I'm perfectly happy with that. Like we're not disappointed if they solve it really fast because that's cool. They're really good. Look how smart they are. Look how good they are. Like that's generally okay.
We don't have to fill up the broadcast schedule, but also in those 20 minutes, so much has happened. We could talk about it
Right.
for like 3 hours.
Yeah, to unpack.
Like,
Gonna
Just
be right back.
dissecting it.
I'm gonna see why the kids are
Oh,
screaming.
no.
all right, you go do that. I have some
we're trying to
questions.
solve the HitCon challenge.
They know now.
Yeah.
I think
That one
we've-
HitCon challenge
we've
that was
taught
just 20
them.
megs of dev random.
Oh God!
That's great. So then what was the vibe like in the room? Like when you were doing these live challenges, did you have like a crowd of people that were watching this?
Depending on the
Uh,
event, yes.
So one of the things that at finals, in
The final
particular-
event, yes. They had like their teammates come and
Mhm.
stand behind their each individual competitors and they were watching.
Yeah, well, but and so unfortunately, we didn't have it broadcast in the room. You
We-
couldn't actually,
Ah.
we didn't actually have it on screens in the room because we couldn't find an angle where the competitors couldn't see it. Excuse me. And we didn't want them to see each other's screen, and so that was one of the downsides to our setup and our layout last year, which I think we fixed it this year. We'll find
Yeah.
out.
With dunk tanks.
Okay.
That way you can't see.
You stream it
on
You
the
can't see
side of
anything
the
else
dunk
but the
tank.
tank.
I actually tried to get the sound isolation booths they have at like esports events, right? Where you got like the
Yeah.
glass. physical.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
really
man.
wanted that because then you get perfect noise cancellation, and we could have like controlled it would have.
One of my favorite
Didn't
things was
happen.
Jordan walking into a live CTF meeting saying, "I think I have a sound isolation booth guy."
My guy, unfortunately, didn't come through. He
We tried to find a dunk tank guy. We
Yeah.
tried. The insurance was the problem with the
Oh,
DEF CON
yeah.
people. So I was like, you could maybe do this, but you have to do it outside. And we were like, that sounds
No.
horrible.
Yeah.
Well, actually,
Yeah,
it sounds
Vegas.
amazing. I would choose to get dunked. I would be like,
Exactly,
yeah,
that's
really.
the problem.
Yeah.
You'd solve it for the other people.
Yeah. I
You'd hit
hope
the
you didn't
submitter
find
with
the
the other
link.
team's name
Yeah,
and boom.
you just wanted the water. Actually, maybe that's what you do is the first person to like win gets to dunk themselves.
Hey.
So
There you go.
Like,
And the other
die.
person doesn't get any water for the rest of the CTF.
Okay. And they die.
Only LaCroix.
Right.
In terms of shenanigans last year, we did
Mhm.
have a couple of the teams walk into frame holding their giant team name banner. That was very cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that is cool. They wanted the experience to show off for
Yeah.
the
We were all. I liked that we had that like people in the room coming around. It was
It gave you kind of a feel of what the event actually was like.
yeah.
Especially for all the people who couldn't make it out to Vegas, instead of just having like the mystery Slack channel where the messages come up and you can see people having a bad time. Like, oh, now you can visually watch as the guy at the table has a bad time.
It was a little bit dicey because the DEF CON rules around recording and stuff.
Yeah.
So we sort of just ignored that. But it was also the COVID year, so everybody was masked, and so that made it awful to cast because we're like yelling to be heard, in this noisy room and stuff with masks on. So I'm really surprised neither Carl nor I lost our voices completely during the event. But
there were a lot of like ice cream milkshakes, traffic back and forth.
Yeah, keeping the vocal cords fresh.
Yeah.
Now we know the secrets.
Yeah, exactly.
You could DOS the competition by just getting your whole team in line at the one ice cream store.
If you wanted to have us like behind, just like stalls.
No, the teams. I think the teams loved. I mean, I don't know about what they told you guys, but from us, I think everyone liked. Like it was cool, I think, for the the champion of the team to like go out and represent the team, and even if they lost, they still had fun, and like we loved watching it in the suite. Like that was amazing.
I think we heard some like somewhat mixed results. Like we had some people who were just over the top, super excited, love what they're doing, and some people who were like, "I like it, I appreciate the idea of it, but it's so stressful. Why do you do this to us?"
And with apologies.
I can see the stress thing, which is very funny to me because like I guess it just must be on a different level because even when you're doing a Jeopardy style or attack defense, there's always that pressure of you are competing directly against people.
Well, that's actually why I like Quals better than Finals at DEF CON because like for me, having like played in a bunch of both, like Quals is me and my friends, we're hanging out, and you're racing to get the score or whatever. But like attack defense is just like all stress all the time. It just feels way more like heavy. I don't know. Like
I do a nice clean patch and some assholes at RPI sec. Just keep working around.
You're gonna go to bed.
Sorry, you're not supposed to swear around a child.
And then the guys running the challenge are just like, "Hey, we're closing up for the day. Here's 3 new challenges. Have a good night."
Yeah, no sleep for you.
Who could have done that? That's crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah,
imagine.
It's almost like that's tradition.
It hurts on both ends.
Correct.
That's right.
And then we go, I wonder if those are solvable.
Oh well.
Yeah, we'll find out tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Why doesn't that child have a mohawk like you?
I thought they did for a second when it first was fuzzy before.
Yeah, it's almost.
It's earned, not given.
My wife is exactly. My wife is skeptical about mohawking them already.
Just wait till as soon as they can choose for themselves. Yeah, I bet she gets
exactly.
Join you.
Yeah, he had a massive poop, and so now he's recuperating.
He looks happy, just like most
Don't
of
we
us.
all at that point? Yeah.
Did you hear our conversation, or do you want me to catch you up?
Catch me up, because there was a lot of screaming going on.
Lots of screaming. With screaming and pooping and crying.
It's just like Finals.
Basically.
I almost did.
That is.
I know. Wait, this is the equipment we're taking to LiveCTF?
No, don't do that.
Oh man, LiveCTF is canceled because of the CTF Radiooo appearance. Sorry,
we
everyone.
showed up, the ice cream shop is closed.
They survived on ice cream milkshakes. How long were you guys casting for? Have you calculated it during finals? Was it like so? 15 hours was the.
Here's where you just use
the
the internet to look it up.
Well,
15 hours plus the one challenge that ran through lunchtime.
Yeah, but then like sometimes we get a break in 20 minutes or so. If it ended at 20 minutes early, we had. But even then, so we weren't on camera, but we would have to immediately get the next teams, get the challenge. Like there was so many logistics between rounds that we were either on camera or Glenn was on the keyboard like running the game and testing things and doing the production, or.
There definitely was never a time when we had released the challenge to the competitors. They were actively looking at it in IDA, and I was just like, oh god, Control-C, try it again, Control-C, try it again. Make sure the service is up if one of them actually tries to land something.
Totally.
Definitely did not happen.
No, would never.
Not exactly not like
There's
that.
no proof on video that it happened.
We definitely were
See, and this is what's beautiful. And this is actually maybe goes to like why people think, oh, I did Jeopardy, I can do an attack defense or these other types of things, because they don't see all the duct tape and all the spit that is holding these things together.
Yeah.
And interestingly, the duct tape is more visible in Jeopardy, I feel, than attack defense, because in attack defense there's so much chaos that players don't notice. Like, I was surprised to talk to some teams. Plenty of people noticed our first year hosting certain things didn't work very well.
We didn't have a
sometimes,
patcher, but yes,
in rare cases. But it was complete chaos on the back end. Everything was on fire, and people were like, "Yeah, we were hacking." Like, okay, great.
Yeah, sometimes it's but at the same time, there's other years where like one little thing can just ruin the entire. So it's on both sides of it. It can be what you see on the outside is not always what's happening on the inside.
We didn't lose any events to a keyboard layout, right? You managed to figure that out?
Wait, what?
We almost lost one event to a changed in a keyboard layout.
Glenn runs Colmac, is it?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, and
no, not
And then I got to log
Comac.
into the stream box, and no one else was using it, so I just,
Amazing. This is so
Comac.com, download that stuff, install it.
We didn't. It
Now
was
I can check the
nearly-
passwords.
Yeah. No one else could, but you could.
It was easy.
So
I gave Jordan explicit directions to hit win space if I had to like sleep in the morning, and I guess he must have
Space
forgotten.
to escape or something.
I think in the end it worked out. It was fine in the end. But there was,
All I know is that I
some
woke up to a flurry of text messages.
Where are you? What's your keyboard? How do we fix it?
What's your keyboard?
The last one says, "Never mind, we got it." So I went back to
ASL
bed.
/
Yeah.
keyboard. Oh, that's amazing. Okay, so how do you? One. I think some other questions. How do you gauge that difficulty level? Because, like we said, I mean, we've even found this when creating challenges for either Jeopardy or Jeopardy. Kind of you cared less, just because hey, who cares? If they don't solve it,
And
I
there's
guess
more
that's the worst
challenges
case
too. I
scenario.
feel like overall, so like it's
Yeah, but like attack defense also kind of has this like you have these bugs, but like it's gonna take them 2 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, 12 hours.
Yeah.
So how do you dial in that difficulty level?
So a lot of it comes down to having the other team members try out the challenge, record how long it takes to solve it. And if you can have like the author solve it in like an hour, sure, and then have like we're not fantastic solvers, but like we're pretty good. And if any of us can solve it in an hour, then generally speaking, it should be easy enough for the competitors.
sometimes if it takes us an hour and a half, we're like, yeah, they'll probably be fine. And
Yeah.
like again, they are much faster than we are. Like
Mhm.
we're also not in a race when we're doing it. We're just like we just want to like get a sense of how it is, what was our thoughts, what worked, what didn't. Should we put hints here? We're kind of like taking our time. So
where the red
honestly,
herrings
if we get into like less than an hour or two, like depending on that, we'll either make it a little bit easier or we kind of like gauge it like that. I don't think we fielded too many that like nobody had actually
I think
like.
last
like,
year we
tested,
fielded
but-
exactly one that we hadn't solved.
and it was not solvable or what?
No,
You're
that's
never
people
supposed to
solved
know.
that one.
Wasn't it? I thought that was.
You're never supposed to admit that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you can check the
By way.
GitHub.
But all of our challenges are solved by at least the author.
You can check the
That's
GitHub.
true.
Okay.
The solve
That's
scripts
right.
just says like comment. Oh, the teams definitely will get to solve this one.
No, that's right. That one was right actually because there was
They
one.
did. They
I mean,
solved it.
there was a couple again because they're so easy. There's a couple that are just like such staple standard things.
Yeah.
That, like we did know and we were fairly
was,
confident.
It's
on.
like
Or-
if you just give someone format string like no pi, no
They'll get
anything
it.
like yeah.
And as long as our working, some of them we did have a working solver, even if it was that easy, just because like we made a mistake or so we
Yeah.
even that we
Oh, yeah.
verify obviously a lot of.
But one of the other like key things that happen when solving the challenges for testing is you find all the little parts where you get stuck because of something stupid, and you try to
Right.
sand down all of those
Yeah.
edges.
Yeah.
Like one of the challenges last year had like the menu with all the selections, and there was a secret fourth option that just like called racks. And it was like, how do I get the flag? How do I get to actually like execute this? I've got all my stuff here. If only I could call racks. And then like after 30 minutes of scrolling through, you're like, oh, there's a secret fourth option.
Yeah.
So instead what we did is we just like in the menu, just option number 4, extremely convenient, call racks.
Yeah.
And then you just watch the competitors like open up the menu and they're like, there's no way. And they hit number 4 and then it just like seg faults and they're like, okay,
Well, know where I'm going now.
there you go.
Yeah.
That's great. So yeah, that's good of like getting the feedback to help guide.
Yeah.
Do you think LiveCTF could win LiveCTF with all of your experience
No.
solving all of these challenges?
I mean, we would have to
I mean,
play
if we
one of us
wrote them.
individually.
if we
no.
if we wrote it
Together, maybe.
Yeah.
Together.
I mean, think
together
about the
we could.
practice that you've had.
If the other
That's
team only
pretty-
had one member,
Yeah.
I would be skeptical.
and it was all
Yeah.
back to back.
the top 3 or 4 players from last year were so
They
stinking
were
good.
so
It's
good.
crazy.
I don't think even all of us together on like keyboard at the same time could beat one of their times. Like, they
Like-
were
Yeah,
They were very good.
watching. I mean, just even the typing speed
right.
Yeah.
of some of these guys
Well,
was
it's like
absolutely
watching like these
insane.
StarCraft
Yeah,
people or
it's
whatever
exactly-
that did like 1,000
Yeah,
clicks
like
per second
APM
and
is
stuff.
just
And you're just like,
all
how does
branches
somebody
per
move
minute.
their hands,
You
their
look at that and
body
you're
that
like,
fast?
I understand why I'm not so good. I physically cannot do that.
Yeah.
After those streams, I went on Monkey Type. My typing speed up because I'm like, at least I should type faster.
They need Pro Tools exercises on there.
They do.
They do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
R equals
exactly.
remote. How many times can I type
They
them?
did some stuff with Vim that you ain't never seen before.
God, no. Oh my god. People
It is funny. That was the other thing. I noticed when watching the streams is there's almost these like weird Venn diagrams of like knowledge that you have, and you'd be like, wow, they're really good at this, but
Yes.
man, they don't know this thing that I know.
Yeah,
And,
what
like,
little
they-
shell tool that
right.
would have saved them this time
Yes.
is how I did it.
Yeah.
I gotta go
Yeah.
back through, like, read all of the different Pwn Tool scripts just so I can learn what the commands are. There's so much good
Yeah,
knowledge
or,
in
like,
there.
They'd edit the thing that I remember sticking out is like editing like sometimes in a raw like Vim or something,
Yeah.
the binary itself
Yeah.
to change the loader path.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, it's like a patcher elf. One command will do that for you.
Right.
You don't need to do this nonsense. But like,
There was
they just get whatever their thing works and then do
There
it.
was one of the other edges that we ran into last year was we were building in Docker with Ubuntu latest, and I think this was right after 2204 LTS came out.
Oof.
And then like half of the teams were like, I don't have your libc or your DYLE or whatever.
Yeah.
LD, sorry, Mac person. I can't run this challenge, like, what's going on?
Mhm.
So after like the first day, we made sure all the build scripts would include all the different files you'd need to actually run it.
Even for just like a stack off onto like a win function, we included libc because we're just like, what if
Just-
like someone
You never
goes
know.
down the wrong
Yeah,
path?
yeah, No, that's so good because yeah, I had this. Oh God, that's one of my big regrets. Is our last year in quals, like my big challenge. It actually came back to like I had a solve script that worked, and then when we deployed it, my solve script didn't work, and I was like, it's like some randomness, like whatever.
Oh.
But it turned out that what I deployed was an older Docker build version that had an older, slightly different libc version that the thing didn't work, and so. Yeah, I just like, God, it's just like one of those things.
Yeah.
It's like, I wish I could have that back. I'm just like giving that to them or like making sure I gave
There's
everything.
so many
that
moving
they could
pieces,
reproduce it.
and just trying to make
Yes.
sure that like
But also, like, a lot of CTFs will use the existence of a libc in the handout as like, oh, you might need to jump here.
Yeah.
Oh, this
Right,
could be
right.
like a one gadget. You never know.
yeah, generally we
Yeah, so
don't do
hit
that.
using that as a hint, but like,
Yeah, but
you
in our case, it's-
explicitly don't want to do that. So you should give it to them for
Yeah,
all of them.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that was our policy.
Hopefully this year they will all have the libc included.
Yeah, I think like the templates that we're using just generally just all do that now.
Although at Quals we had some last minute Docker file cleanups that caused a couple of problems. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
I think it's like you said. There's too many little things. It's impossible
Yeah.
to run this perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah, without having like just an order of magnitude more people, time, like
know if people
dry
will.
runs
Yeah.
beforehand. Yeah, if you have more people like you who could like you could do full dry runs of every single person in multiple like tests, and like you could have the infrastructure in place and set up exactly like you could kind of go over the top, but like we all have lives, sort of. So
Yeah, exactly.
you know,
That's-
it's
yeah.
like
Some of us.
you got to make
You try.
do.
So what do you see as the future of live CTF
Dunk tanks,
in general?
clearly.
Not
Like we
no. Okay, yes, dunk tanks for sure. But I mean, do you see like an esports like future for this, or
I don't think
it doesn't have to be live CTF in general, but let's say
Right,
streaming,
right.
live streaming of CTF.
I don't think the audience will ever be so big until some big things get figured out, because everyone's setup is different. You know, with games, for example, like CSGO,
Mhm.
like you can look at the round timer or like the round score and see like, oh, it's 15-10, this team is winning. Like,
Mhm.
but with CTF, you can look at teams and be like, oh, this team has 3,000 points, this team has like 2,800 points. But this team is about to get like 5 more flags, but how do you know that? And there are so many moving parts, and it requires so much knowledge just to like keep up that
Mhm.
I don't know if the pickup rate will ever really.
That and like you're missing the kind of like super exciting visual aspect you get of like
Yeah.
regular games.
Yeah, I think that, and that was again like a lot of like CGC.
That's where the chess boxing comes
See?
in.
We just have someone go
Visual.
punch him in the face.
Yeah.
Like that's what we were trying to do with CGC though, was to make it visually obvious and like dynamic, because I do think that there's like some things you can do to make it more visual and like to make like
Mhm.
who's winning and the drama of like are they getting close or not, like if you can kind of either build in with a mix of visuals or screen caps or instrumentation with the tripwires where you know exactly where they are, how far they I think there's things we can do to make that better. The problem I think really though is like the amount of like effort and labor that goes into something like this, like because you take like all of the like the challenges are easier to write than a lot of the harder DEF CON. I mean they're not trivial just because the testing and you still have to do you just want to make them interesting, and but like they are generally easier than like the challenges like, Nautilus for example will be putting in the finals. Just not as big because they can't be. If they're too big, like you can't really solve it in time. So like they're necessarily smaller. And like us trying to solve our own things, we should do it in a short time period. So like that's better. but then you add in like all of the like multiple suitcases worth of like audio network power, like the equipment that we're bringing is like just a lot of other pieces. Like, do we have enough USB length cables and running like just the infrastructure for like the broadcast side is like a whole nother kind of component beyond just the normal power network that you need. So like I think all that like there's no money in it, you know, and there never really has been for
Negative money
CTF.
in it.
There's negative money. Yeah, we all pay. Yeah, I buy a lot of equipment that just sits on the shelf until next year. And so like that's you know it's the way it's been for years for all the DEF CON organizers and people, you know, we do it. People do it because they love it. But I feel like when you have to have that production value too, like production quality, and like, you know, do we want to have like Hackassat level like visualization and graphics and movies and all that stuff? Like it's so expensive to do that stuff. So that's the thing that kind of depresses me, is that I think to like really take off, there needs to be take sponsors. Do you like I don't know, is there even a big enough audience for that? And like maybe.
Can you imagine?
I don't know. It's tricky though, because in some level, I don't know. I keep thinking like, yeah, but like this is an industry where people get such high paying jobs from these skills. And if you can incentivize people to develop these skills, like thinking about how many, one thing that shocked me about the Order of the Overflow, like when we hosted, is hearing from people like, oh, they got into CTFs because we were doing CTF, or they only played our games. So like, you know, are people getting into CTF because of LiveCTF and then get into a path for security? Like,
well, I mean,
that'd be amazing.
What Starfighter did. So I don't know if you know the brief history of Starfighter.io. I think was the domain, but it was Tom Patrick, his wife Aaron, and
I think I've heard of it, but I've never actually played it.
But they were like they started a company who was building. They were building like a CTF platform. Some of the people behind microcorruption, when they were at Monsanto, went to do Starfighter, and the whole goal was to build a similar kind of like web-based, except they went like into like financial market stuff, which I was like, you instantly lost me. But okay, it was like still a CTF, you know, instrumented kind of online. It was a lot of cool ideas, virtual CPUs and stuff, with the whole goal of it being a commercial company where like if you did well, they would get you job. Like it was both your resume and then they would hook you up with the companies would get people pre-vetted as like really good technical people. So it was a great idea, and it just unfortunately didn't go anywhere. So like that is one option, right? But I'm a little busy, you know, right now with the thing that I really care about, and so, you know, I don't know if I would do it, but I, you know, I'd certainly love to see it. I would like to see, you know, it go to the next level, it to be more of a sport, and to have. I want the sound isolation boost. I want, you know, like I want
the
all
dunk
that.
tanks.
Yeah.
The dunk tanks.
Yeah.
What about dunk tanks?
I'll push for it. Don't worry, guys.
Dunk tanks are cool.
Definitely not going to be a challenge.
Okay, fine. We'll get dunk
This guy's
tanks.
not a
Sorry.
dunk tank.
All right.
fan.
Jan's kid does not want
No, I
dunk
think
tanks. I don't know if you want
really does
to use his name. I'll call him Baby 2. How about
Baby
that?
2. Is Jan Baby 1?
Oh, no.
Jan Baby 1 is in his Poem College videos. You can see her.
My
Anything you or Baby
students,
2 want to
when
talk to
when
the mic.
Baby 1 was born.
Your Baby 2 is closer to the mic than you are.
Что ты? Мышку? Нет, мышку нельзя. Это слишком опасно. Да. Challenge coin.
No. No.
I'm definitely keeping all this in. There's no way I can cut this.
No, this is good. You gotta leave the cute parts in. Mine
That
are
is
getting
true.
too old now. I need to see the little ones.
Well, you need to speak to him in Russian.
No, I don't speak Russian in mine. But,
Что хочешь? Это?
yes.
So yeah, I think that's great, because that's I think how to get more people into CTF has always been something that we're super passionate about. I mean, Jan has
Poem
Poem
College,
College, like he mentioned. We're educators at heart. That's like our you know, we want to teach people it's stuff, and like the other thing that I think about is actually talking to some of the people from PPP, and like not even all of them are like in security, the people who've graduated. That's the other thing, is like you learn these skills that are not necessarily security related, but are like you just learn how to hack like at a basic level.
Yeah.
And that's what companies want. You need people that can hack.
I was talking with I forget who at Hexacon with Neo at Hexacon, and he's like, "Oh yeah, so I'm doing VR now," and I'm like, "Oh cool, like with who?" And he's like, "Oh, sorry, I'm doing like virtual reality."
Yeah, the other VR. Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh,
That's been
okay."
such a difficult bet. Something will need to give, because that you can't have those two.
Crypto means crypto, and VR means vulnerability research.
Yeah.
Right? So, actually, that's not a bad shirt to make. Crypto means crypto, VR means vulnerability research.
I feel like
I would wear that one.
it's still not going to work in the current year.
No, not,
Yeah.
we're not there yet.
You're gonna get people coming up to you asking you to buy into their scams.
You'll have
Yeah,
a PFC or
trying to-
GTFO situation.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Cool. Well, hey, anything else we haven't mentioned yet? Sorry, I think we can wind down a little bit since the baby 2 is melting slightly.
I can try to hand him back off, but he was pretty tired over there.
No, it's
No
okay.
worries.
Yeah, anything else you guys want to say? Plug?
I mean,
clearly stuff you want to plug.
LiveCTF.com, right?
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
the trick. We're gonna be live and online. I think we'll probably be posting even like our rules.
Maybe
and,
even
like,
tweet. You never
we
know.
might tweet. Yeah, we'll
Ooh,
see.
wow.
Well, I have to tweet right after we do this, so that fairness wise, make sure everybody knows it's
true.
coming.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't tweet during
It's
this.
too late. Everyone's already
I thought
tooling
about
up.
it. Yeah, you've got that 30-minute head start for.
Yeah, Anger's being optimized for our challenges.
Oh, I can hear it.
Oh, trust me, us old men are not going to be the ones doing any live CTF.
I
I
can
want
just see the anger.
I want
faces.
Chris Siegel to come and do really well in the brackets this year. He I hope
That would be
he
cool.
comes back and does that. But yeah, so livectf.com, we'll have the brackets. We've got our YouTube channel as well. You can go and turn on alerts so you see when the stream goes live.
What's the best way to watch? Twitch or YouTube?
I think
Do you
we're
do
only
both?
on
We
YouTube.
only do YouTube because I'm lazy. I don't want to have to
Okay.
remember to like separately re-upload a VOD, and so like YouTube just does that. So yeah, I think
Yeah, that's very
we're
convenient.
sticking with YouTube probably for this
Okay.
one.
We lose so many VODs on Pwn College because everyone just forgets. In fact, I pay for Twitch Prime
Yeah.
or whatever it's called nowadays just to keep the VODs longer.
So you have a better
I can,
window
like,
to like
get-
not lose
get
stuff.
to
Yeah,
them.
that's why I just have always. I mean, Twitch has a better, more kind of interactive environment in some ways, but yeah, I'm lazy,
Yeah.
so we stick there. That's it. We might have even multiple streams. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Oh, why would we have multiple streams?
I don't know.
Oh,
Just you know,
I just
Could
saw
be
a
anything.
lot of
Ooh.
HDMI cables.
I got a bunch of.
There's so many cables.
So many HDMI cables. All right, that's a good place to end on. Anybody else want to plug? I don't know. Twitter, Mastodon,
Yeah.
Blue Sky handles, companies that they may be created
No.
from scratch.
I think we let our logo in the background. I guess people who are just listening don't know that we all
They don't?
work at Vector 35, which
Yeah.
makes Binary Ninja. And I'm trying not to let any challenges be unduly Binary Ninja focused.
Yeah.
Definitely trying.
We're definitely trying to not give Binary Ninja advantage.
I'm not saying things will be better if you use Binary Ninja, but they shouldn't be worse. So
I feel like I heard that on the
I
stream
just saw a
for
lot of
finals when I
division
was
by
watching.
7 in your last challenge for
Actually,
some unknown reason.
I think it was Gamozo that was even like, so you made these things work all better in Ninja, right? And I was like, not intentionally actually, but
No,
Maybe,
but
but
yeah,
if
dude,
they
they
do.
just happen to work better.
I mean, it is what I'm doing most of my testing on. So what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it is what it is.
All right, everyone should use Binja. Anything else you want to plug, Jan?
No, just feed your kids plenty of prune juice or whatever.
Keep them regular.
Prevents, yeah, keep them regular.
All right.
We do have stickers. So if you're in
Oh.
Vegas, come out not only to see it in person, but come by and grab some live CTF stickers.
Also, shout out to
And if you give the
RPSec.
secret
Yeah, shout out to
password
RPI
of
Yeah, because
They didn't
they're
qualify,
not
they didn't even
qualifying,
play
so
this year.
we don't have favorites.
Oh, there
COVID
you go.
absolutely just like
COVID
destroyed
kind of shout out Ripsec.
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 Yeah, well, Ripsec is just the grads, but yeah,
That Slack channel has been dead for like 2-3 years.
it's called Ripsec for a reason.
Oh, that's because all the cool kids are on Discord.
well, what I miss is the days of IRC where
Oh, the
nothing
IRC
being
still is
said
on.
was a mark of prime. Yeah, well, mark
Join
of prime.
RPIS.EC,
I'm
the
idling.
IRC server. It's
It
still
is- it
running
still exists.
somehow.
I was idling there for a while actually, and I idled so hard that my idler died. I went to actively idle, SSH back into the box, and it's like not there anymore. I'm like, what happened?
Yep.
And the box got deleted. I don't
Oh no,
know.
There was a good 6-month
Yeah.
period where the SSL certs were up, and then
no one noticed.
now the chat is majority just other IRC networks coming in to spam their network,
Yeah,
which is entertaining
Nice.
every time. Some ASCII art I cannot unsee.
really good K-line regexes.
Great. All right. Yeah, we love RPI Sec. So cool. All right. Jan, send us out.
All right. Hey, one last thing I think just to summarize is, there is a remaining problem of how do you make CTF observable and security in general approachable in an observational way without actually having people dedicated to like spending their lives commenting individual screens, because that doesn't scale so well. I think there's we talked about some ideas, but it's definitely an open problem, and if someone solved it, I think they would probably get hundreds of fans easily.
Yeah.
Maybe 200 even.
Tens of dollars. Yeah.
Dozens of them.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Translates all those clicks.
Yeah, I looked at like there's some monetization estimators online. I'm like, how much would I get for like monetizing Pwn College, the YouTube channel? It's like $12 a
That
month.
would buy
It's
you
not
a
too
coffee.
shabby.
That's pretty good.
That could almost pay for the
Yeah.
YouTube Premium.
Yeah, that's like a two
Exactly. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's not
Amazing.
bad. All right. Anyways, yeah, it's thank you guys for joining us. It's been awesome. I'm sorry we had some human
Thanks for
related.
having us. We had Mongo.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we Adam and I will both be at DEF CON, so we'll drop by,
see you all.
and we're tossing around ideas on like what does a live episode from DEF CON look like? Is it just us wandering around, yammering, possibly not very sober, or do we live stream the freaking after party? Or
I know about that.
That's a bad
In
move.
the super spreader event.
You get your camera COVID too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's well, there was the VTuber that was there, so it's the precedent exists. But otherwise, yeah. So we'll see you guys at DEF CON, and many of our listeners, if you see us at DEF CON, this episode will probably drop shortly before DEF CON. If you see us, drop by and say hi. Adam is super approachable. I am semi-coherent sometimes at DEF CON. So yeah, drop by, say hi, give us the password.
I'm a fan of Zardus. I'm a fan of Zardus. I'm a fan of Zardus.
Give us that password and we'll give you I don't know, stickers. Do we have time to
Nothing.
make
We don't have
stickers?
stickers.
That's why we get stickers. If we have stickers,
It's
we'll
like
give
a
you
week
stickers.
until the thing,
can show
man.
up and ask
Do
Jordan
we
for
have
stickers.
stickers?
You'll get a free copy of Anger.
I was gonna say,
Yeah,
yes.
free copy of Anger. Exactly.
I'm a fan
On
of
audio.
Andrew. I'm a fan of Zardus.
Yes. Okay. And then also look out go check out. I don't know if they'll be in the CTF room or not, but check out LiveCTF where they're streaming. Hopefully the event where you can go check that out because that's super
room
cool.
somewhere.
The main.
Oh, in the
main
room. Cool.
Yeah. you'll be
And back and forth to
I
the
don't
ice
wanna-
cream stand.
Of course.
Nice. All right.
Or
Yeah,
you can just bring
bring
the
Jordan and
mice
Carl some milkshakes. That's
If
that's
I'm
what
not
they
over in
so.
Hackensack, because I'm running back and forth all weekend long.
Yeah.
No way.
It's-
Wow.
He's going to be getting in the
You
cardio.
couldn't bring
Yeah.
one wheel.
Amazing. Wow.
Oh, nice. All right. Well, with that, again, thank you all for joining us, and
Yeah.
goodbye, hackers.